Hi, this is Candy with Candy at Hainsworth Design Studio, and I am in the official classroom for the Sew It and Show It workshops. Today I'm going to show you how to sew a two-panel pillow cushion. When it's finished, there will be no zips, no envelope folds, no buttons, and no glue. Here's what you'll need. You'll need two coordinating fabrics. So this is like a gray suede and it has like a grid on it. And I got this for $2 a yard at Walmart. So it's about 5 yards here, but we're not going to need that much. And then I have a coordinating fabric. And I love the feel of this. I got this from Hobby Lobby and it was $8 a yard. And it was on clearance for $3 a yard. So remember, it's a two-panel pillow. So we'll use the gray for the second panel and we'll use this red print for the first panel, and it goes together quite nicely. The other supplies that you'll need is going to be a pair of scissors, a sharp pair of scissors, some straight pins, and you're going to need something to fill your pillow. So you could either use the polyfill like I have here, or you can use a pillow cushion. So if you even have an old pillow cushion, you can actually recycle it. This would be a good time to recycle it. Or if you have an old pillow that you can't recycle because it's not in a form, you can open it up and you can use the stuffing. I have boxes and boxes of this. I buy it, I think it's like a 20-pound box or a 25-pound box, and I have a storage room with boxes and boxes of this. So we need to use this up, and this is a good project to get started with that. Let's get started. So the good thing about when you buy fabric, especially from the fabric stores, is that it comes off the bolt and it is already in a fold and you have two layers, which is good because we're going to be cutting two panels here. Now, I am also going to be using my yardstick, and I also forgot to mention that you will be needing your iron and your iron board because most people will not be doing this project with the suede fabric. They will be doing it with a cotton or something that needs to be pressed. Like the front part of this pillow will need to be pressed, and you want your iron to be nice and hot. So now is a good time to go grab your ruler or your yardstick or your measuring tape, and you'll also need something to mark your fabric. So I'm just going to reach over and grab me a marker, and you can also go plug in your iron. Okay, so I went ahead and I've marked the fabric, and I measured 20 inches wide by 20 inches long. So this is going to be a 20 by 20 panel. At least that's what we're going to start off with, okay? And I marked the fabric with a black marker for the camera's sake so you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I'm just going to go and cut it out along the lines, measuring the two panels at 20 inches by 20 inches, which is one thing that you have to do. You have to decide how big you want your pillow. Now, I would recommend, if this is your first time doing this, is to start off using scrap fabric, so you can kind of get a feel of how to do this, exactly how much polyfill you will going to need, and exactly what will be the finishing measurement of your pillow once you put the two or join the two panels together, in which I'm going to show you in a little bit. But first, we are just cutting out the first two panels, which is the largest of the two sets. After you've cut your panels out, you want to lay them right sides together. So you're going to turn one side right side up, and then you're going to turn one right side down, and you're going to, actually, I had it positioned wrong. You want to make sure that it's positioned right. And then what you're going to do is pin it in place and then take it to the sewing machine. And you're going to sew all four corners closed. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, once again, is we're going to pin it in place and then take it to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew all the way around. Okay, so I am at my machine, and I have the machine on the base plate, and I have the fabric upside down actually. Okay, so I have the fabric on the base plate, and what I generally will tell my students is press a foot down, needle in place, and pull out your pin before you start sewing. And a lot of people like to sew over pins, but I don't recommend that. I don't actually, that is actually a safety hazard in my studio. So anyway, we're going to make a straight stitch all the way around, and we're going to enclose the right sides together. Remember to back stitch, because I just almost forgot. But you want to back stitch. And then when you are approaching a pin, you want to stop ahead, pull the pin out, and then continue sewing. Once you get to a corner, you want to leave your presser foot down. I'm sorry, not your presser foot. You want to leave your needle down into the fabric, your needle in place. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my husband making faces at me. You want to leave your needle down with your presser foot up. So we're going to press the presser foot up, and then you're going to rotate your fabric, which is called pivoting, and it holds your fabric together. Then you can put your presser foot back in place, pull your next pin out, and continue to sew a straight line. Okay, so we have finished sewing the right sides together of the gray, and now I have attempted to start actually making the first panel for the pillow. And the first panel is going to measure 17 by 17. So remember, we started out the second panel being 20 by 20, and the first panel is going to be 17 by 17. I've already marked it out. I just need to cut it, and I'm going to put it right sides together like I did before, pin it in place, and then take it to the sewing machine. Okay, so I went ahead and I sewed the red fabric right sides together, and then the next thing I'm going to do is trim off the excess. So you can see here better on the gray fabric where there's excess there. I'm going to trim all the way around the excess as closest to the thread or the stitch line without cutting the stitch line. But you need to trim off your edges, or your corners rather, not your edges, I'm sorry. And to do that, you're just going to come close to the stitch line and trim like that, and then continue to trim off the excess. And this will help when you're turning the fabric right side out. This will help to get those corners poking out nice and crisp. Okay, so now that the edges are trimmed off, the corners are trimmed off, now it is time to turn this inside out. And you might be saying or asking yourself, how are we going to do that when we have sewn all four corners right sides together? So first we're going to do that is by simply pulling the fabric apart like so. So it should look something like this, right? So you have one side and you have the other side. Try to find the middle of the fabric. I'm starting with the smaller panel, but it really doesn't matter. Just make sure that when you are holding it like this, you don't have both layers together. So this is your bottom layer. This is going to be your top layer. And I'm just going to snip a hole like so. And I guess I can be a little bit more generous with that hole. So I'm just going to snip it just a little bit bigger so I could turn it right sides out. I'm going to do the same thing to the gray fabric, which is going to be the back panel fabric. And we're just going to... Okay, so my battery ran out and I had to charge it a little bit, but I'm back. I did pause on what I was doing. The only thing I did while it was charging, I did press the front panel. So I want to show you that the hole is going to be back here. And we're going to do the same thing to the gray panel. We're going to pull the front and the back side apart. And my nails are preventing me from doing that. But basically, this is the way it should look. So this is your back panel and this is your front panel. You want to make sure that you're grabbing it at the center. And you want to make sure that you don't have both panels. And then you just want to snip. I always like to do a little snip first, just so I can be careful, so I can be sure that I didn't grab both. If you grab both, then you have to start over. And that has happened. Then I cut a bigger hole. And this is actually your opening. And actually, because this fabric is a little thicker, I'm going to go a little bit bigger. But remember, you want to stay in the center of your square. Okay. And then you just want to reach in there and turn it right sides out. Now, this is a suede fabric, so there will be no iron in this fabric. But it does have that nice grid print, so it should be fine. I'm going to poke out the corners. And then once that's all done, I'm going to lay both panels hole to hole. So whole side to whole side. Okay, so I want to press it out flat first so you can still see that hole. And then I'm going to take my red panel. You see that hole there? I'm going to lay it whole side up to whole side down. Actually, let me see if I like it this way. No, I like it this way. I know some people are just like me, a little bit indecisive, but basically it is whole side to whole side. Okay? Eyeball the edge or the rim of your two-panel pillow, just to kind of make sure that you're okay, it looks okay in regards to the same distance and so forth. Then you want to pin in place. And when you pin it in place, you're going to pin it so that you're going to sew a line all the way around, and you're going to leave at least 1 inch off from the first panel of your fabric. So I'm just going to put a few pins in here. And this time, instead of sewing all 4 sides, you're only going to sew, you're only going to sew 3 sides. So I'm going to sew all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, and I'm going to leave this open. And once again, the way I'm going to sew it is, it's going to be 1 inch away from my front panel. So I'm going to start here. So my allowance is going to be 1 inch, and I'm going to sew all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, and this is going to be open. Okay, so I'm back at my sewing machine, and I'm going to start on the side where the opening is, just so I make sure that I don't sew it, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to put a green pin just so I know not to sew in that area. Because I might just get so carried away that I might just sew the whole thing closed, and then there won't be a video. Okay, so once I know that I come to this green, green usually means go, but in this case it's going to mean stop. Okay, so I'm going to put it on the machine, the base plate, and remember we're going to have an inch. Okay, so there's going to be an inch. So I'm going to position it where that's about an inch, and I'm going to start here. And then I'm just going to sew all the way around 3 sides. I'm also using a white thread. Generally, I would have used maybe a red thread, but I want you to see where I am stitching. And also, once again, as a reminder, we don't sew over pins. So as we are approaching the pins, we will stop the machine, pull out the pin, and continue. So press the foot down, needle in place, and begin sewing. Okay, so we sewed an inch around in 3 sides. I can actually take out the pins now, the green ones. And now we're going to lift the opening open like so, and either put your pillow form inside or your polyfill. In this case, I'm using polyfill. And what you want to do is you want to get a pencil or something that can really get that polyfill in the corners here. I'm going to use the tip of a paintbrush, but you want to start and push it into the corners there. So start with the small amount, push it inside, and then take your pencil or whatever you're using, your tool, and just make sure that it's really in those corners, and then fill the rest up. Okay, so once again, once you get your polyfill in, you want to press down like so, pin it in place, and then sew 1 inch away from the edge of the pillow. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know why my battery keeps running out, but it ran out again. But anyway, it's charged again. So once again, we're just going to pin it in place right there, and we're just going to sew 1 inch closure. Then we'll reform it by, massaging the pillow a little bit so we can get all of that polyfill into this area here, and then we're done. Okay, so I have the pillow on the machine. I have the needle in place, and I'm pressing down, and I'm going to stitch a line, a seam, 1 inch away so it can tie in with the rest of the 3 lines that I have here. I'm going to try not to bump the camera. Okay, and once again, as we are approaching a pin, we stop and we pull the pin out of the fabric. Now this is a little tricky because the pillow is bulky, and I'm trying to stitch a straight line and I guess I can't. Okay, here we go. But I love it when this happens because, as you can see, we make mistakes too. Okay, so I'm going to try to hold the fabric. I got it here, I got it here. Let's see what happens. And I'm going to stop. So far, so good. Pull the pin out. Get a hold of the fabric again. Continue my straight line. Looks like it's trying to be a little crooked. Okay. Continue. Making sure that my fingers will not get caught or run into that needle. Take the pin out. And I hope you are getting to see all of this. I'm holding it. And you know what will be ideal for our a project like this, because this fabric is a bit slippery, either quilting gloves or a walking foot. But that's another tutorial. I'm just going to continue and just try to hold it as best as I can because it's trying to slip out of my fingers. And I'm approaching a pin. And I'm approaching my last pin, as you can see. Not too bad. And that's it. Cut the thread, needles up, press the foot up, and take it off the machine. You did it. You just made a 2-panel pillow. Well, I would love to see pictures of your 2-panel pillow. So be sure to join me on Facebook at Sew It and Show It. Or you can also join me on Facebook at CandiaHainsworth.com. Or you can upload the pictures to YouTube. I would love to see your pictures and what you've made from this tutorial. Thank you so much for joining in. Until then, I'll see you next time.